Viewers, welcome back to the Personal Injury Law Show. This is the time of the show when we got the mailbag. Kathy, how are you?
Good evening, Tony. I'm well, thank you. Alice, good evening.
How are you,
welcome
Kathy?
back. Thank you. Good evening, viewers. Welcome back to the show.
I love the way you guys have got your hair made up today and
we are
nicely
trying. It's all for the
dressed
viewers,
and,
though, Tony.
All for the viewers.
do I look
Exactly
all right
right.
amongst the females? Or?
You do. Look, you hold up all right. But
Age kicks in eventually, doesn't it?
Hardly.
we had another interesting show again tonight, and with common issues.
Yes.
People do commonly fall, but what I don't understand is, and Alice, please shed some light, why don't they put mats in front of the milk sections and the fruit and vegetables?
Kathy, it remains to be seen, but I don't
Can I
want to be
answer
giving them
that,
too many
Alice?
hints.
Do you know how many people have tripped over on mats? Because once you put the
Really?
mats, you've still got to make sure that they're laid out properly, they're clean, they don't get stuck, they get grotty and all sorts of things.
You
It's
know
a
what I
problem.
find is a common problem, though? The sugar.
So,
Sugar always falls. But anyway, just be careful is the main point on that. We've got some questions to answer from the viewers again, so I'm going to go straight into them tonight. First one comes from Jeff in Alstonwick, and it's actually something we were discussing tonight. So Alice, lucky we have you on the show. The question is, dear PI show, I was at a nightclub last Thursday night and stepped on broken glass, which became wedged in my foot, resulting in a deep cut and emergency surgery to have it removed. I didn't have hospital bills as I went to a public hospital, but I did have the expense of paying for medications and petrol to and from the hospital, as it was not local for me. I've also needed time off work. I was wondering if I was entitled to any compensation. Now, Alice, how would you go about answering that question for Jeff?
For Jeff, well, look, Kathy, there are several things that Jeff needs to keep in mind. The first is that he can come and see someone about getting some compensation, as depending upon the circumstances about the broken glass, he might have a claim. If he's able to prove that the nightclub is negligent because they failed to clean up the glass in time or to inspect the premises properly, he can not only claim for his out-of-pocket medical expenses and his time off work, but he can also claim for his pain and suffering, provided he can prove he has an injury that's serious enough under the legislation.
Okay.
this is very relevant to what we've been discussing, Alice, because if you've got broken glass on the ground, you'd think that there's been an incident where someone's dropped the glass.
That's right.
Or more than one glass.
That's
It
right.
depends on circumstances, whether they've cleaned it up promptly or they've left it sit there. So, yeah, and you'd find that in these sorts of cases, more often than not, you've got pretty good grounds to pursue a claim.
That's right, and it will all come down to that discovery process that we were discussing earlier, and whether or not Jeff has, as I said, a serious injury under the Wrongs Act, and it will depend upon, you know, what we can and can't prove about the occupier's inspection and maintenance of the premises.
The serious injury part of it's really the question of the threshold, the 5%.
That's correct, Tony.
And strictly speaking, that's not serious injury as such, because when we talk about serious injury, it's more in the context of work cover and TAC.
That's right.
So it's a significant injury.
Yes.
And you'd think if he's got deep cuts and other lacerations and consequences that flow from that he probably would have a serious injury or significant injury.
On the face of it sounds like that, and that's something we'd need to look at as well.
And also he's entitled to not only his medical expenses incurred to date, but also future costs of surgery, maybe to rectify the cuts or the scarring.
That's right.
He's entitled to his future loss of earnings. He's entitled to a host of things.
That's right.
Well, Jeff, we hope that's answered the question for you. We suggest that you seek legal advice on that front, as it sounds that you, like you do have rights for compensation, but obviously further investigations would need to occur as well. Moving on to the second question, which is from Jeremiah in Mooney Ponds, and it says, "Hi, Tony, John and Kathy," and we're going to have to include Alice in this tonight, viewers. I recently went to an amusement park with my 3 children. Whilst on a mini train ride, the train overturned, throwing them from the carriage and leaving them with extensive cuts and bruises. That's not very good. It turns out the person operating the train had only started that day. Do you think I have a claim? This is very concerning, Tony. A train overturning at an amusement park, you would think that someone would have a little bit more qualification other than starting on the day and operating a train.
Well, I think the circumstances, you'd need to know a lot more, but I would have thought that you're going to have negligence there because it shouldn't overturn. That's the first point.
Absolutely.
And whether it's because of the driver's incompetence or lack of training, or whether it's because of some mechanical defect, I think you'd have a reasonable claim. My concern, I guess, is that you're going to need 5% physical impairment for pain and suffering, or 10% psychological/psychiatric impairment for psych injuries. Now, when you're dealing with children, you've got to wait for time to see how they go, and the claim wouldn't only be theirs, there'll also be a claim for the mother if she suffered nervous shock.
That's right. There are a lot of complicated issues in this case, Tony, and we also need to remember that it's the children have a right to either sue straight away with their mother as a guardian, or they can also wait until they're 18 before they have to bring proceedings.
And then they've got time after that within
That's
which to
correct.
sue. Look, you really don't want to be encouraging children to sue, because ideally, if the injuries aren't that severe, you'd prefer that they get over them and get on with their lives, because you get caught up with psychologists and psychiatrists, cause all sorts of problems long term.
Litigation can be very stressful in that respect.
It can. But in any event, just like the last question, I think it's one where you need to seek legal advice. I do prefer the first client's case, but this one here, I would make a phone call to a personal injury lawyer.
Excellent. We hope that's helped, Jeremiah. Moving on to the third question. Dear Kathy, Tony and John, my daughter fell over in a public library and now has a significant scar to her forehead. She is 21 months old. I fear that the scar is significant and will have a detrimental effect on her in the future. What can I do? And this is from Nima in Northcote. Tony, again, to you, public library, 21-month-old.
I'll throw it back to Alice. She's the expert in public liability.
Well, we'll see about that. But a 21-month-old, that's a very young child, and a significant scar is nothing to be scoffed at either. But it's again at the same issue. The child is very young. It will depend upon the development and that sort of thing. The law does make allowances for that waiting period that Tony was referring to earlier. But the question becomes whether or not you can make out the detrimental effect of the scar. And if you're going to make a claim such as the child might have been a model or might have been in an industry in television or film or something like that, then yes, there would be a significant claim there. As Tony said before, psychologists, psychiatrists get involved, doctors, the child is very young. It really will depend upon the facts. The cases do need careful consideration, because quite often you can do more harm than good by running these types of litigation.
Alice, the only thing that concerns me is you're dealing with a female here, and she's only very, very young.
That's
as she gets
correct.
older, she'll become conscious of the scar.
That's
and
right.
it might affect her interpersonal relationships with, just males and just in general. So I think that it's one that I'd be putting on the back burner,
Yes.
seeing how she goes, seeing if it covers up and if it fades over time. But I'd keep a close eye on this one.
Well,
That's
she
exactly
does
right.
have the right until 18 years old
That's
anyway.
exactly
But
right.
Alice,
And more
does a
after
scar
that.
amount to 5% whole person impairment, even if it's later down the track?
Kathy, that's a good question, but generally speaking, it will depend upon the individual circumstances. For a female, as Tony's saying, a scar on the face is a significant issue, particularly when you get to around your 15, 16-year-olds. And that can be enough, because your whole person impairment's about how it affects your life as a whole.
Kathy, I've had cases like this, but look, it's not only the physical side of the scar. I think that as the child gets to 12, 13, 14, psychiatrically or psychologically, she could be more than 10%.
It could
because
be.
of the effect that the scar's going to have on her view of life.
There's a range of
She'll be
issues to
conscious
consider
of it.
there. That's
Yeah.
right.
Wow, okay, so again, seek legal advice on that, and we hope that that's helped, Nima. I would actually like to bring the viewers to the attention of our new email address. We would like you to keep writing into us, and it's info@thepishow.com. We welcome any questions and also any segments that you would like us to cover anytime. So we love having new ideas, and we'll keep coming back for them. So please keep writing in, and thank you for watching tonight.
Thanks, Alice. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, viewers, and stay safe. Thank you.